Good evening. Tonight, there is nowhere you need to be. Nothing to finish and nothing to solve. The day is over now, so settle into a comfortable position and allow yourself to relax. As the rain falls softly outside, let your breathing find its own gentle rhythm. There is no need to focus on anything, no need to remember anything, and no need to do anything at all. Tonight, all you need to do is listen. Together, we'll leave the noise of the day behind and step into a quieter place, a place filled with old books, soft light, and endless stories. Beyond these shelves, the world feels distant, and the clocks tick more slowly here. The rain softens every sound beyond the windows, and for a little while, nothing is expected of you. No decisions, no deadlines, and no distractions. Just the quiet comfort of a story waiting to be opened. The library is waiting. The rain taps gently against the windows, and the lamps glow softly between the shelves. Everything is calm here. Everything is still. Now, follow me through the sleeping aisles, past the shelves, and past the rows of forgotten stories, toward the reading table at the center of the library. Waiting beneath the glow of a single green lamp is tonight's book. Let's open it together. Tonight's book is Walking Through Pompeii Before Sunset. And now, the story begins. Together, we'll leave the noise of the day behind and step into a quieter place, a place filled with old books, soft light, and endless stories. Beyond these shelves, the world feels distant, and the clocks tick more slowly here. The rain softens every sound beyond the windows, and for a little while, nothing is expected of you. No decisions, no deadlines, and no distractions. Just the quiet comfort of a story waiting to be opened. The library is waiting. The crowds are smaller now than they were a few hours ago. Many merchants have already begun gathering their goods. Wooden shutters stand half open, and market stalls are being cleared. A few customers linger, making final purchases before heading home. Around you, life continues at an easy pace. Nobody appears rushed, and nobody seems concerned about the passing hours. The city has followed the same rhythm for generations. Morning brings activity, afternoon brings heat, and evening brings relief. And now, evening is slowly arriving. As you continue walking, the distant sounds of the city blend together. Footsteps, conversations, the creak of wooden carts, and the occasional call of a merchant hoping to sell one last item before sunset. Above the rooftops, swallows circle through the golden light. Their movements seem effortless, and for a moment they drift between the buildings before disappearing into the bright sky beyond the city walls. Pompeii is not a small town. By the standards of the Roman world, it is a prosperous place where thousands of people live. Tradesmen, bakers, farmers, craftsmen, merchants, children, families, and visitors arriving from nearby settlements. Every street carries its own small story, and every doorway leads into another corner of daily life. As you walk farther into the city, large stepping stones rise above the road. They allow pedestrians to cross the street even when rainwater collects below. The gaps between them are carefully spaced, wide enough for cartwheels to pass through and narrow enough for people to cross comfortably. It is a simple solution, practical, unremarkable, yet it reveals something important about Pompeii. This is not a city built for grand spectacles alone. It is a city built for everyday life, a place designed for ordinary routines, ordinary journeys, and ordinary evenings. And tonight, as the sun slowly lowers toward the horizon, we will take our time exploring those routines, one street at a time, one step at a time, with nowhere else we need to be. The farther you walk into Pompeii, the more the city begins to reveal itself, not through monuments and not through grand public buildings, but through the ordinary details of daily life. The details that most residents hardly notice anymore. The smooth stones beneath their feet, the familiar corners they pass every day, and the sounds that blend so completely into the background that they become almost invisible. The streets of Pompeii are busy, but they are not chaotic. Everything moves with a rhythm that feels established, predictable, and comforting. People know where they are going, merchants know their customers, and neighbors recognize familiar faces. The city functions through thousands of small routines, repeated day after day. As you continue walking, you notice the surface of the road beneath you. Deep grooves run through the stone. Some are shallow, while others are surprisingly deep. They were not carved intentionally, but appeared gradually over many years, the result of countless carts rolling across the same routes, wheel after wheel, day after day, year after year. The streets themselves have become a record of movement, a quiet archive written directly into the stone. Every groove tells the story of trade, of deliveries, of farmers bringing produce into the city, and of ordinary people going about ordinary business. Above those worn roads rise the elevated stepping stones that allow pedestrians to cross comfortably. They appear throughout the city as simple blocks of stone placed at key locations. Today they seem unusual, but for the people of Pompeii, they are simply part of daily life, a familiar feature that requires no thought at all. Children hop across them, workers cross them without slowing down, and visitors learn quickly where to place their feet. The city teaches its own rules, without signs, without instructions, and without explanation. As the afternoon slowly gives way to evening, the quality of light begins to change. The bright intensity of midday has faded. Long shadows stretch across the streets, doorways grow darker, and walls glow with warm shades of gold and amber. The entire city appears softer than it did only a few hours earlier. The heat is beginning to ease. Many residents welcome this moment, as summer afternoons in southern Italy can be exhausting. Work is often planned around the hottest part of the day. People seek shade, doors remain partially closed, and courtyards become places of refuge. But now, the air feels lighter and more comfortable as a small breeze moves through the streets. Conversations become more common, people linger a little longer outside, and the evening encourages a slower pace. As you pass one intersection after another, small details begin to emerge everywhere. A painted advertisement on a wall, a carved symbol above a doorway, a small shrine tucked into a corner, and a worn threshold polished by thousands of footsteps. None of these things seem important on their own, yet together they create the character of the city. Pompeii is not simply a collection of buildings. It is a place shaped by generations of people living ordinary lives. The city feels human, accessible, and lived in. As you walk farther along the road, a cart slowly approaches from the opposite direction, its wooden wheels rattling gently against the stone. The driver guides his animals with practiced ease, and no one seems bothered by the noise. It is simply part of the soundscape of daily life, a sound heard so often that most people barely notice it anymore. Nearby, two neighbors pause to exchange a few words. A shopkeeper sweeps dust away from his entrance. A dog rests in a patch of shade beside a wall, and a group of children disappear down a side street. Nothing dramatic is happening, and nothing remarkable. And that is exactly what makes the scene feel so peaceful. For a brief moment, you are not standing inside a famous archaeological site. You are simply walking through a living city. A city filled with routines, with habits, and with familiar paths and familiar faces. A city preparing quietly for another evening. And as the golden light continues to soften across the streets of Pompeii, you find yourself slowing your pace as well. There is no reason to hurry. The city is not going anywhere, and neither are we. As the evening settles over Pompeii, the scent of fresh bread still lingers in the air. It drifts quietly through the streets, warm, comforting, and familiar. For many people in the city, this smell is as ordinary as sunlight or rain. It is simply part of daily life, a reminder that another day is slowly coming to an end. As you continue your walk, you notice a bakery near the corner of a busy street. The doorway remains open, but the busiest hours have already passed. The morning crowds are long gone. The afternoon customers have mostly returned home, and now only a handful of people remain. Inside, the atmosphere feels calm. The heat from the ovens still fills the room, not intensely, but just enough to make the air feel pleasantly warm. The stone floor carries traces of flour, where fine white dust rests in corners and along the edges of wooden shelves. A baker slowly brushes the surface of a work table clean. There is no rush in his movements and no urgency. The day's work is nearly finished. Most of the bread has already been sold, and only a few loaves remain. They rest quietly on wooden boards, cooling little by little in the evening air. Some are round, while others are larger and flatter, but each one carries the familiar marks of the baker who made it. Outside, the golden light of the setting sun reaches through the doorway. It stretches across the floor, across the tables, and across the shelves where the remaining bread waits. For a moment, everything seems still. The baker pauses to look outside, where a few people continue walking along the street. Neighbors exchange quiet greetings. Children pass by on their way home, and life continues, slowly, comfortably, and without interruption. In a nearby corner of the bakery stands a large millstone. Throughout the day, it helped transform grain into flour, but now it sits silently, its work completed until tomorrow. The same is true of many things throughout the city. The carts, the stalls, the workshops, and the tools. One by one, they are becoming quiet, and one by one, they are settling into rest. The bakery is simply following the same rhythm. As evening approaches, the city begins to exhale. The busiest moments have passed, the noise has softened, and the pace has slowed. And everywhere, small signs of closure begin to appear. A wooden shutter closes, a broom sweeps across stone, a final customer leaves a shop, and a lamp is prepared for the coming night. None of these actions seem important, yet together they create the gentle rhythm of evening. A rhythm that repeats itself day after day, year after year, and generation after generation. As you stand near the bakery, the scent of warm bread continues to drift through the air, mixed now with faint traces of wood smoke and the cooling warmth of the ovens. It is a simple smell, a familiar smell, the sort of smell that rarely attracts attention when experienced every day. Yet it has accompanied countless evenings throughout history. Long before electric lights, long before automobiles, and long before modern cities, people ended their days much as they do now. They worked, they returned home, they shared meals, and they prepared for rest. The bakery remains quiet. The remaining loaves continue to cool, and the ovens slowly release the last of their warmth. Outside, the streets grow a little calmer with each passing minute. The shadows lengthen, the light softens, and the city continues its slow journey toward night. There is nowhere to hurry, and nothing demanding your attention. Only the comforting scent of bread, the warmth of the fading day, and the gentle feeling of an ordinary evening unfolding exactly as it should. For a while longer, you remain there, listening to the distant sounds of the city, watching the light fade beyond the doorway, and breathing in the quiet atmosphere of Pompeii at dusk. As the evening continues, you eventually leave the warmth of the bakery behind. The scent of bread grows fainter with every step, and soon another sound takes its place. The quiet sound of water. At first, it is little more than a distant trickle, easy to overlook, and easy to mistake for the breeze moving through a narrow street. But as you continue walking, the sound becomes clearer, steadier, and more familiar. Water flowing gently into stone. A fountain waits ahead, simple, unremarkable, and part of the city that most residents hardly think about anymore. And yet, throughout the day, thousands of people depend upon it. The fountain stands at the corner of a small intersection, its stone basin smoothed by generations of hands. At certain times of year, the gardens within it blossom, and sometimes the air is filled with the scent of lilacs. But not tonight. It is still quiet, the water bubbling gently in silence. At the entrance to the fountain, a small brick is pushed into the wall of stone, and there are initials carved into it. The fountain has always been here. Its stone listens to rumors of the city, stories without words, and is part of the city's timeless memory.
The edges are worn, the surface is polished by time, and people have stopped here every day for many years. Perhaps so many years that nobody remembers exactly when it first became part of the neighborhood. Water flows continuously from a carved opening, clear, cool, and unhurried. It falls into the basin below with a soft, repetitive sound. The same sound, again and again and again. It is a sound that never seems to rush, a sound that asks nothing of anyone. Nearby, a woman fills a clay container. She does not appear hurried, and there is no reason to hurry. The water will continue flowing long after she leaves, long after the street grows quiet, and long after darkness settles over the city. The fountain remains patient, steady, and reliable, as it always has. You pause beside it for a moment. The air feels slightly cooler here, and the presence of water changes the atmosphere. The sounds of the city seem more distant, more softened, as the fountain creates its own small world, a world of quiet splashes and gentle echoes, a world measured not by clocks, but by flowing water. Throughout Pompeii, dozens of fountains like this one serve the city's residents. Some stand beside busy streets, while others rest in quieter neighborhoods. Yet they all share the same purpose: to provide water without attention, without celebration, and without recognition. They simply do their work, day after day and year after year. As the evening light continues to fade, fewer people pass through the streets. The city has begun slowing down, and the busiest hours are behind it. A few footsteps echo in the distance. A cart rolls slowly across stone somewhere far away, and voices drift through the warm air, then fade again. But the water remains. The fountain continues speaking in its soft and familiar language, a language made entirely of movement, entirely of patience, and entirely of time. You watch small ripples spread across the surface of the basin. Each ripple touches another, then disappears, and a new ripple follows, then another. Nothing changes, and yet nothing stays exactly the same. The water continues its endless journey, one drop at a time, and one quiet moment at a time. As you remain beside the fountain, you begin to notice details that might otherwise go unseen. Tiny reflections of the evening sky, small movements across the surface, and the way the fading sunlight catches the water for only a moment before disappearing altogether. The city itself seems to be growing quieter now. Doors close, conversations end, and families gather indoors as the day slowly folds itself away. But still, the fountain remains awake. Still, the water flows,
and still the ripples move gently across the basin. Perhaps this is why fountains have always felt calming, not because they are exciting and not because they are beautiful, but because they are consistent. They do not hurry, they do not worry, and they do not demand attention. They simply continue, minute after minute, and hour after hour.
And as you listen to the water, it becomes easier to let your thoughts drift as well. The concerns of the day begin to feel distant. The streets of Pompeii become softer around the edges, and the sound of the fountain grows more familiar and more comforting, almost like a companion walking quietly beside you. The sky above the city deepens into warmer shades of gold and amber. Soon those colors will fade into twilight. Soon lamps will begin glowing in windows. And soon the city will settle into evening. But for now, there is only the fountain, the cool air, the gentle movement of water, and the comforting feeling that there is nowhere else you need to be. Nowhere else at all.
As the sound of the fountain slowly fades behind you, another familiar part of Roman life waits ahead: the public baths. Even now, as the day begins drawing to a close, people continue arriving through their doors, not in great numbers and not with urgency, but quietly and comfortably, as though following a routine they have repeated countless times before. The bathhouse stands warm against the cooling evening air. Light spills softly from the entrance, and the sounds inside are gentle. Water moving across stone, quiet conversations, and footsteps echoing through large rooms. Nothing is hurried, nothing is demanding, and there is only the slow rhythm of people unwinding at the end of the day.
As you step inside, the temperature changes immediately. The air feels warmer here. The stone walls have absorbed the heat of the day, and the floors beneath your feet still hold traces of warmth. Everything feels calm and protected from the outside world. A place designed not for work and not for business, but for rest. The Romans valued their baths deeply. For many people, visiting them was simply part of daily life, as ordinary as sharing a meal or returning home. People came here to wash, to relax, to sit quietly for a while, and to leave the concerns of the day outside. And this evening is no different. Nearby, a small pool reflects the fading light. The surface of the water remains almost perfectly still. Occasionally, a ripple spreads outward, then disappears, and a moment later, another follows, then another.
The movement is so gentle that it almost seems accidental. The room itself appears to breathe slowly. Warm air rises, cooler air settles, and the water remains patient, silent, and untroubled. Along one wall, several visitors sit quietly. Some speak in low voices, while others simply rest. The conversations drift through the room like distant echoes, never loud and never urgent. Words rise and fall, then disappear into the warmth. You do not need to hear what anyone is saying. The details do not matter. Only the atmosphere remains. The feeling of a place where people have allowed themselves to slow down, The baths seem to encourage that slowing. The architecture itself feels unhurried. Wide rooms, high ceilings, smooth stone, and soft reflections dancing across water. Nothing is sharp, and nothing is demanding attention. There is only space, warmth, and time. Farther inside, the air grows slightly warmer still, and a faint mist hangs above the water. The evening light filtering through high openings creates soft patterns against the walls. For a moment, it becomes difficult to tell exactly how much time has passed. Minutes seem longer here, perhaps because there is so little reason to measure them. No schedules, no notifications, and no clocks demanding attention. Only warm air, still water, and the steady rhythm of another peaceful evening. Many visitors remain here longer than necessary, not because they have unfinished business, but because the atmosphere itself feels comforting. The baths offer something increasingly rare, a place where nothing needs to happen, a place where people simply exist for a while. As the city outside continues moving toward night, the bathhouse seems almost untouched by time. The water remains calm, the stone remains warm, and the conversations remain soft. Everything continues exactly as it should. You find yourself slowing your pace once again. There is nowhere to hurry, nothing waiting at the end of the corridor, and nothing you need to accomplish before leaving. The evening will continue, whether you rush or not. The water understands this, and the baths understand this. Perhaps that is why the atmosphere feels so peaceful. Nothing here competes for your attention, and nothing asks anything from you. The warmth of the room softens every thought. The reflections on the water blur gently together, and little by little, the outside world feels farther away. The city still exists beyond these walls. The streets, the markets, the houses, and the fountains. But for now, all of that feels distant. For now, there is only warm stone, quiet water, soft voices, and the comforting stillness of Pompeii at the end of another ordinary day. The evening has arrived completely now, and the warmth of the day remains, but only just. The sun hangs low beyond the rooftops, its light softer than before, gentler and more patient. The bright energy of afternoon has disappeared, and in its place comes something quieter, something slower. As you leave the baths behind and return to the streets, the city seems to have changed once again, not suddenly and not dramatically, but only gradually, as though the entire city has agreed to move more softly for a little while. The shadows stretch farther now, across roads, across courtyards, and across the worn stones that have carried generations of footsteps. The golden light settles against walls and columns, against doorways and rooftops, against every surface willing to hold it for a few final moments. You continue walking, not toward any destination and not toward any particular landmark. Simply walking, simply observing, and allowing the evening to unfold around you at its own pace. There is nowhere to hurry, and nowhere to arrive. The streets themselves are enough.
As you pass through a quieter neighborhood, small lamps begin appearing behind open windows, one at first, then another, and then several more. They are tiny points of warm light scattered throughout the city, each one marking the end of another day, and each one welcoming someone home. The growing darkness does not arrive all at once. It arrives gently, with a little more shadow here and a little less sunlight there, a gradual exchange between day and night. It is the sort of transition that often goes unnoticed, yet tonight there is time to notice it, time to watch it happen, and time to simply be present. A nearby courtyard sits open behind a doorway, where inside a small tree stands motionless in the evening air. A clay lamp flickers softly behind a wall, and the courtyard feels peaceful, almost hidden, a quiet world existing only a few steps away from the street. Moments like this appear throughout Pompeii. Small spaces, small pauses, and small reminders that life is often built from ordinary things. A familiar room, a familiar path, and a familiar evening. The farther you walk, the quieter the city becomes. The busiest sounds have already disappeared. The markets are closed. The deliveries are finished, and the work of the day has been completed. What remains now are softer sounds, a distant conversation, a door closing, and footsteps fading into another street. Then, silence. And then, the gentle sound of water somewhere nearby. The fountains continue flowing, just as they did in the afternoon, and just as they will continue through the night. Patient, steady, and unconcerned with the passing hours. You pause for a moment beside one of them, where the surface of the water reflects the fading sky. Small ripples move slowly across the basin, and the last traces of daylight shimmer for a moment, then disappear. The fountain does not seem to notice. It continues its work, one drop at a time, and one quiet sound at a time. The evening breeze feels cooler now. Not cold, but only comfortable. The sort of temperature that encourages people to linger outdoors a little longer, to sit for a while, and to enjoy the final moments of daylight before night arrives. Above the city, the sky begins changing once again. The gold fades, the amber softens, and new colors emerge, deeper colors, and calmer colors. The rooftops become darker silhouettes against the horizon, and the streets become gentler, less defined, and almost dreamlike. You continue walking, slowly and comfortably, passing homes where families are gathering for the evening, passing courtyards where lamps glow softly, and passing streets that only a short time ago were busy with activity. Now they seem content to rest. The city feels smaller at this hour, not because it has changed, but because the day has released its hold upon it. The energy has faded, the movement has slowed,
and everything feels closer, softer, and more intimate. Even the sounds seem different. The city no longer speaks loudly, it whispers. And perhaps that is why evenings often feel so peaceful. Nothing is trying to impress you, nothing is competing for your attention, and nothing is asking you to hurry. The day simply loosens its grip and allows the world to become quiet again.
As darkness settles more fully across Pompeii, the first stars begin appearing overhead. A few at first, then more. Small points of light watching silently from above. They are the same stars that watched over the city yesterday, and the same stars that will watch over it tomorrow. The people of Pompeii know these stars well, and many have ended their evenings beneath the same sky countless times before. For them, there is comfort in that familiarity, comfort in routine, and comfort in ordinary things repeating themselves, day after day, season after season, and year after year. You find yourself slowing your pace once again. The city seems determined to move slowly now, and it becomes easy to follow its example. Easy to let go of urgency, easy to let go of schedules, and easy to let go of whatever remains from the day. The bakeries have grown quiet. The fountains continue their patient song. The baths remain warm, and the homes glow softly from within. Everything has found its place, and everything feels settled. The city asks nothing more from anyone. Its work is complete. And as you stand beneath the evening sky and look across the rooftops of Pompeii one final time, a deep sense of calm settles over everything. The streets, the houses, the courtyards, the fountains, and the people preparing for another peaceful night. The golden light has faded completely now. The shadows rest quietly across the city, and Pompeii drifts gently into darkness, as calm as the library and as quiet as the rain beyond its windows. And as the final page of tonight's book slowly closes, the city falls asleep beneath the stars. And perhaps tonight, so do you. Good night.